My name is Brian, and I like to teach people about their bodies. Don't take everything I say point blank. Always do your research. I simply serve as an introduction. I am by no means a professional in any of these subjects. One alone would honestly take a decade of educating, and only then would I be scratching at the surface of understanding it. The concept of biology and physics, or biophysics, is a passion of mine, so my place is here on YouTube, creating content to empower others and to help people question their reality. Sometimes I read from my iPad, because my mind sometimes goes blank. The main intro is, welcome to StarCraft. We are here to talk about ancient religion, aliens, biology, and metasex. Why are we here? Where did we come from? Where are we going? What's the fifth dimension? And how can we all learn to separate orgasm from sex? And how can that help us unlock our multi-dimensional abilities like astral projection? Stay tuned to explore. I'm your host, Brian DePena, and this is StarCraft, where physics meets fantasy. I am a storyteller. So, today we're going to be talking about what I call the human dilemma. There are lots of problems going on Earth with drugs in particular, and people being tired, and substance abuse, and now we live in the digital age, so that's also becoming a problem. I feel like our phones are a dopamine button, if you will. But nature always has the vaccine near the site of infection, as they say, or wherever the virus originates from. And ours happens to be here in nature, in these patterns. So today, briefly, I would like to just introduce myself and the topics I'm going to be talking about a little bit. So first off, we have ancient symbolism, geometry, and fractals. So as you can see, these patterns repeat themselves, these root-like fractal branching. And I really think that our ancestors tried talking to us about the nature of our reality through symbols. We're talking about civilizations all over the world, some who did not really have contact with each other, using the same symbols, which I find fascinating. And if you really break down the nature of these symbols, like the flower of life, you can really get down into a sort of physics, like the Vesica Pisces, or the origins of the Holy Trinity, the Spirit, the Father, and the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which really has to do with the sun's center of gravity. If you zoom in, I think I can zoom in. Yes, I can. If you just zoom in into the center of gravity of the sun. So our sun goes like this around the galaxy, but within its orbit, it goes around in microcircles. And if you map these microcircles, you can see at one point the center of its gravity, which are represented by the red dots. At one point it was in 1992, and so forth. It makes a Holy Trinity symbol. And not for nothing, but the sun, my sun, the sun in the sky, everything's interconnected one way or another. And I like piecing together things just to add to the narrative, or to stimulate communication between the left and the right hemisphere. Anyway, from the flower of life alone, you also get Vesica Pisces, which from the Vesica Pisces you can get the golden ratio and the square root. Double squares, you can get a whole bunch of geometry from that alone. And I find it interesting that on a cellular level, the vesica Pisces manifests as meiosis, or when cells split and divide. This is just explaining the flower of life a little bit and how it can be broken down. I would say that this is actually pretty groundbreaking because it's the way molecules behave and come together to create form. It's chemistry, essentially. And I find it interesting that one of these ancient symbols, like the fruit of life, which overlaps perfectly into the flower of life, manifests itself here on a molecular level. And then this is just breaking down shapes and where they come from. And essentially the message here is that triangles are literally the most powerful objects or stable structures. And the way I see it is, first comes the circle, then comes the line, then comes a triangle. And then every other shape can be broken down into triangles. Nature truly is geometry, which is fascinating. It's pretty undeniable. What I find interesting is that when you take all of the platonic solids or all of the shapes that exist and you put them together, you overlap them, you get Metatron's cube. That's what it's called. And then you get this. You get nature and the physics of why everything looks the way it does. I'm going to be exploring this more, and my goal is to connect it to what's happening on Earth right now, what's happening to our species, and why a lot of us are sad. And I'm going to be connecting it to orgasm and the way we as a species have been taught to have sex, which I think is poorly understood and so understudied. And it's kind of just brushed upon when we're in school. It's not really something that we talk about at home, and school kind of just glosses over it. I remember my sex education class consisted of my teacher saying, this is a condom, this is a penis, this is a vagina. It feels good. Literally. She just took time to explain anatomy, STDs, and how to protect yourself. But she didn't go into what I would have gone through, what I would go through. Arousal. What is arousal? How does arousal feel? How do you self-regulate yourself when you are aroused in front of others? Like, arousal is not just sexual attraction. It's also other forms of attraction. It's also repulsion. It's sadness. It's anger. It's frustration. It's nervousness. It's depression. It's happiness. I want to demystify sex, and I want to demystify arousal, and I want to normalize it. I think it's high time that we as a species evolve our perception of sex and realize that it's a part of us. It's not going anywhere. And unfortunately, at this time on Earth, it's coming out in odd ways, like through a hypersexualized media. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. My name is Brian, and this is StarCraft.